So for those of you who, for whom the option to inline and defer CSS so as to get your CSS to not render in a blocking fashion, for those of you for whom that just proves to be too much of a hassle, there is a different way to get rid of that render blocking CSS that Auto-Optimize also provides. And it is as easy as this inline all CSS. If you tick this box, let's have a look at the site really quick though. I want to visualize this for you. For purposes of this lecture, again, HTML is unoptimized, unminified. JavaScript is on. And CSS optimization is on just generally there, meaning that it's going to create that single combined file for us in the head of our web pages. Let's have a quick look at that to remind ourselves of what that looks like. This is what that looks like. This single file that, if clicked, shows all of the concatenated and minified files that are now in that single HTTP request. So, but again, that's still render blocking. So this option to inline all CSS, you get to, there's advantages. You get to bypass all of the hassle that you get with inline and defer, and you are no longer serving render blocking CSS with the inline all CSS feature. So let's enable that, save changes, and empty the cache. And also remember to always empty Auto-Optimize's cache as well. So after we do that, what does that look like? Let's have a gander. A hard refresh of the page and see what we can see. So just take a look at that for a minute. Soak all that in. That is all of your CSS has now been put in line, all of it. It makes for big, fat pages, but it solves the render blocking issue. There is, however, a threshold, the point at which it is no longer advantageous to inline all of your CSS, and you will want to try to make use of the inline and defer. There is a magic number associated with being able to inline all of your CSS. And you can see that the number prior here for our total of the HTML weight was 8 kilobytes. And then after we inlined all of CSS, it jumped up to 47 kilobytes. And that's still okay, because our magic number, it's actually a magic range, is between 50 and 60 kilobytes of total weight for the page, for the HTML. So long as your page's HTML ends up weighing less than between 50 and 60 KB, there is no performance impact. However, if you get outside of that range, or the upper end of it and outside of it, at the upper end of that, then there are some performance impacts. Remember, if you implement this, after you implement anything, you want to test, test, test. However, we are going to do some things later in advanced optimizations that will assist you in mitigating any performance issues that may arise by inlining all of your CSS. So that is an option for you. But again, and as it is with all of these things, implement and then test, test, test. If you find that you're getting serious performance impacts by inlining all of your CSS, you will want to make use of inline and defer CSS If, as you should think it is at this point, it is critical to get rid of all of that render blocking, those render blocking issues above the fold. There is, however, and again to say this differently, a threshold at which it is actually better for you to have a single render blocking CSS file than it is to inline all of your CSS. However, that is a threshold that you're going to want to discover for yourself. So that is the long and short of it, folks. So that in effect concludes how to deal with minification and concatenation of CSS and how to solve the CSS aspect of the render blocking conundrum. So earlier I had mentioned that when we were talking about minification and concatenation of JavaScript, and that attribute that gets added to that end file. Let's have a look at that again. That end file here. That defer attribute. Remember when I said we were going to talk about async as well? Well, let's go ahead and get in a detail right now about the render blocking conundrum as it relates to JavaScript and how we can apply the best of all possible worlds to our JavaScript files that are no longer render blocking.